is now the right time for businesses to assess what they're using digital on a digital perspective, or what's your view on that?
So the first thing is don't change what you're using. You know, we're all setting up work from home. We're still getting used to the ideas of working remotely. We're using Zoom today. There's Teams, Skype, WebEx, Cisco. It goes on and on. So whatever you've already got in your company, stick with it. That being said, you probably are missing at least 5 or 6 tools that you've never needed before. Simple things like a whiteboard. You know, you can call your colleagues into a boardroom, bring up a whiteboard and start doodling and ideating for whatever the project is at hand. So when you start to look for the tools that you are missing or believe that you're missing, the second challenge is not to fall into a trap of commonality. So, you know, we've all been saying if we'd bought shares in Zoom, for example, Zoom might not be the correct tool. Teams might be a better one, etc. in the video conferencing side of things.
Yeah, so it sounds like really you're encouraging, you know, companies to try to generate as much continuity as they can in terms of their systems in a time of unprecedented change, but at the same time to not be complacent and to actually, perhaps at some point when they come up for air, do a bit of an audit of what tools they do have and where are the gaps, and do some sound research around that to support any decisions that are taken.
I can add one thing onto there quickly as well, Luke, is, you know, a simple pen and paper and write down a list of what you're currently doing and what you think you should be doing. And it's the should be doing that will help you identify what tech you're missing. You know, I mentioned the whiteboard. I work in the creative space and the marketing environment. And for me, that's where Teams really came into it, is that it has a whiteboard. So I can jump on with my team and I can doodle. You know, I like to talk and draw at the same time. So sit down and think, now that you find yourself sitting at home, what are you missing? And not the coffee machine, that doesn't count, but what are you missing from a tech point of view? It might be a simple note-taking app. Then research, how would you share that note-taking app? And that's what I was alluding to.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brett. Well, look, there's a few questions trickling in from the audience, so keep those coming, and we'll get to those shortly. But I did just want to give each of the panelists a chance, I guess, to just talk about some real life best practice, you know. So when we're talking about who's getting it right at the moment, you know, from a marketing, from a comms perspective, just a general presence of mind perspective, guys. Maybe if we start with you, Jenny, who do you think's getting it right at the moment?
As I said earlier, Luke, Audi, I think, makes me smile every time I think about their ad. And I think the companies that have all put out communications to help us get through this self-isolation without killing us, killing ourselves or killing our husbands, to try and help us get through. So, for example, Stan is telling me, you know, what are the world's best TV series I can watch. Repco is telling me if I want to self-isolate in my garage, I've got everything that I need. And then probably on a more serious note, CPA, which is a accountancy firm, are saying, if you're a small business, come to us and we can help you. So I think the businesses that are responding to people's needs like that are handling this the best.
Fantastic. Ian, over to you.
Well, I'm, based on the discussion earlier, it's not a business, or you could argue it's the biggest business, and that is the various governments in this country. I mean, admittedly, they've got strong platforms from which to communicate, but the federal government through the Prime Minister and the various state governments through the premiers, it seems to be a constant stream of information coming from them, supported by their medical professionals. And it's a bit of a left field one. I'm actually quite impressed with what some of the football clubs are doing. You know, they've got people who've invested in them, for want of a better term. They bought a membership package and they're unable to deliver, but they're certainly communicating. The ones that I've seen are really communicating quite strongly with their supporter base, with their member base continuously, even when there's not a goal to kick.
Yeah, literally and metaphorically. We'll come to you, Brett, in a second, but we've just had a nice comment come in from Tim Archer, just in regards to the government commentary I think both Ian and Jenny have made. And Tim tells us, I can't agree more with you, Jenny, about the value of daily live presses. It has never been easier to get information directly from the source. However, I do mark down government for not uploading their presses on the website. They only provide transcripts, says Tim. they'd fallen into the trap of thinking everyone is on Facebook. Thank you all for sharing your insights, Tim Archer. Okay, interesting perspective there. Thanks, Tim, for building on that theme. And I think some validity there for sure. So best practice, Brett, your chance. Give us some people who are getting it right.
So I'm actually very impressed with the car industry as a whole. I mean, you know, cars generally, every time there's a downturn in the economy, they're the ones that are going to cop it. And what they've done now is exactly what I was saying earlier. They're not trying to sell to us. They're advising us to stay home. They're saying that the vehicle will be there when we're ready for it. One specifically is Lexus, how they've even done a campaign where they've said, you know, we'll come and fetch your car and service it for you and even give it a wash. So my next car will be a Lexus. At least I know once a year my car will get a free wash. Where Kia was another one, you know, it's advising us or asking us to be safe, spend time with our family. You know, we travel as a family in a car, but now we can spend time together. So I really think they've done a good job. They're still spending the money advertising. They're still keeping relevant as far as a brand presence is concerned, which is important, but they're not selling us on anything. They're not trying to sell us on anything. With regards to who's in the, you know, who we're seeing, I'm seeing a lot of the banks. But I don't know if the banks are getting it right. And I'm sorry to all the bank clients that might be listening today. And what I mean by that is, you know, money is a really, really sensitive topic at the moment. And no one's sitting here at home going, oh, I got tons of cash. Where can I throw it? The messages that I'm seeing from the banks is, you know, how to set up online banking, or you can transact online. You know, telling us what we can still do in banking, as opposed to maybe sending a message out reconfirming that we're not in trouble and we're not alone. You know, if we can't make a mortgage payment, which a lot of people can't, that they're here to talk to us and listen to us. Maybe what they should be doing is spending more time putting messages up there saying, if you are in financial difficulty and you can't make a mortgage payment, go straight to this website. You know, help us cut through or navigate through the digital mess. You know, banks are obviously got inundated with phone calls at the moment. So embrace the digital channels, put chatbots up. One or two of them have done a really good job with that. I just think that's the messaging that they're getting across. They don't need to tell us that they're here. We know that they're here. They need to tell us how they're here for us in this current climate that we find ourselves in. So that would be my suggestion.
That's great, Brett. Thank you so much for that. So we've had a couple of questions come in online here directly to me. So actually one of them, Brett, is for you, and I think it actually links in nicely with some of your commentary before around digital marketing. So we have Tim Newhouse asking, do you think in a post-COVID world, do you think businesses will continue to focus heavily on digital marketing once COVID's over? Or will they revert back to more traditional style of marketing like events, etc.? Good question, Tim. Thanks for that. What are your thoughts, Brett?
I'm going to say that they're going to stay in digital. I think what we're doing now is we're proving we are responsible. We can work from home. For years in the eventing industry, there's always been a question as to how much value there is in an event. You know, do we need to fly all the way to San Francisco to go and see, you know, the Game Developers Congress? That was the last one I was about to go and see and didn't go. I've now watched the Game Developers Congress online. I've watched it through a virtual environment. I was able to chat. Queensland Tourism did an amazing job a couple of weeks ago. They actually had paid for the facility at the Star Casino. So they had the keynote speakers still come and stand up on stage on their own and present, you know, like we're doing now, but they had the backdrop, they had everything, but we didn't need to fly there. So I think that we will see an increase in digital marketing. I think that if ever there was a doubt that digital didn't have value into the marketing mix, that will be abated now and proven. We're learning a lot about people while they're at home. We're tracking their IP data. We're tracking their movements, where they go, what they do. So yeah, I think it will increase. I don't think it will decrease. If not stay the same, it will increase.
So it'd be great in a moment or two, maybe Jenny and Ian, to get your perspectives on your patches and what you think post-COVID world will look like from, I guess, social media, PR, journalism perspective, Jenny, and a financial comms perspective, Ian. We'll throw to you guys in a sec, but just a nice comment coming in addition to building on best practice. Thank you, Alicia, for sharing this. She says the arts institutions are sending out wonderful e-newsletters with lots of free curated content. The galleries, Australian Ballet, theatre companies, all have really stepped up to comfort the populace with wonderful material. I'm very thankful. Thanks, Alicia. That's a great comment. Thank you for building on that. And maybe over to you, Jenny, from a post-COVID world, what do you think we'll be faced with?
I think we'll see a lot more of these live press conferences and live information and live updates as we're seeing now. And the best thing about them is that you see them and you can interpret it as you want. It's not interpreted through another journalist's eyes. You can see it straight there. I'm really liking that, and I think more businesses will probably continue to do that in the future.
Great. What do you think?
I think we are probably seeing a bit of a step change. I don't think in the sense that the technology that Brett alluded to, we're just going to see more of it. I can't see us going back to the old ways. I think for some organisations, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, particularly those that are, that normally would do events, conventions, those sort of large meetings, and people may well question whether that's still the best way to communicate with their stakeholders. And particularly when you think about annual general meetings, will we see a shift where they're all done online? I mean, if the company's having an AGM in Perth, to what extent am I going to pack up and go and attend it? It's from Melbourne. So now I can go online and look at that AGM and think about the various ways you can participate. Some of the meeting applications have voting modules effectively. So, and I'm aware of a not-for-profit that is holding its AGM exclusively online, and they'll be able to use the voting module to make, I guess, the key decisions.
Thanks, Ian. Well, we're approaching 1:30 and I'm conscious of people's time and people have other things to do. So thank you, everyone. But I thought we'd just maybe do a last quick fire to each of the panelists as a sort of key takeaway from today. Is there one piece of advice? What's sort of the one key takeaway that you guys would give to your clients, to your the people you consult to? What's sort of the takeaway for business at the moment?
I can start, Luke. I think everybody needs to stay calm. We're not going to be in this forever. But while we're in it, we need to change our marketing strategy on more of a focus on how to help your customers. And that way your customers will stay with you throughout this crisis, but probably more importantly, when it's all over.
I can pick up on that as well, Jenny, is that the terminology of brand trust is going to be even more important now than ever it was before. As consumers, we need to know and believe that the brands that we've invested in and buy from will be there for us. And more importantly, the brands themselves need to think about what they need to do to ensure that we stay there for them. Like you said with LD, beyond this, you will be loyal to them because they've done what they've needed to for you and the people that are helping us through this crisis at the moment.
All right. From my perspective, I'd say, look, just keep your communications clear, simple, and frequent. And above all, try to inject some confidence. Be like Her Majesty, and we'll meet again. There is a path out of this, and keep that confidence and keep that communication going.